Hello, hello. We are live.
Amazing.
Okay, welcome, Jodi, to our live show, Magnetic Confidence and How to Take Up Space. Who would like some of that?
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait for this conversation.
Thank you for joining us today. And in order to start, as people are still joining, I'm going to do a little bit of a boring part, which is explain a little bit about what we're doing here and a little bit of a bio for me. And then we'll jump into who our guest is. So I am Christina Garidi. For those of you who don't know me yet, I have founded Eudaimonia Coaching UK, and I am on a mission to propel people to live authentically. Now, I coach ambitious professionals and entrepreneurs to decode what their purpose is in life and find career alignment. And I introduced the Eudaimonia Success Model as a TEDx speaker globally in 2018. And I am writing my book on how to access the eudaimonic state of mind. Eudaimonia, for those of you who don't know yet what it means, it is an ancient Greek paradigm for well-being, mainly developed by Aristotle, but it wasn't his word or anything. And it means human flourishing. And literally, it has been forgotten for about 2 millennia, as part of a philosophy course. So whoever is a philosopher student will know about it, but everybody else, we've been a little bit in the dark regarding eudaimonia. So that needs to change. And this is my mission. And this is why we are here with Jodi and many of my other guests. And my clients who join me on the eudaimonic path, they tend to choose to self-actualize. Why they do that, I don't know, but it's wired within us. And so they make leaps daily, and they realize their full potential at work, but in also the fields that they choose to express themselves in their lives, basically authentically. So I'm the host of Eudaimonia live show, and where literally I invite people I like and people that excite me, and I think would definitely sprinkle a little eudaimonia in our lives. And today is Jodi Goldman, and she is a personal impact coach and an international speaker. You will hear from her accent. She has a beautiful South African accent, and I'm very partial to that. I love it. She works with professionals and business owners to develop magnetic confidence, a powerful personal brand, and assertive communication skills so that they can step up, stand out, and shine, which probably you can see on her, background already on her screen. And they can do that in their careers or in their lives in general. And let me see who would like some of that. Say yes in the comments if you're already with us, and let us know where you are joining from so that we know who we've got company globally from. And I'm so happy to have you with us here, Jodi. And I must admit, I absolutely love your direct style and outspoken style and approach in business, but also in the way you communicate, in terms of your messaging as well as storytelling, because I've been following you for the last few months since we last met in December, thanks to Paula Wingate. So thank you, Paula, for connecting us. So, for example, you use terms such as get your ass out there, which I love. So direct. Step up, stand out, and shine, which is, the motto you have behind you as a poster. So I would love you to share with us your background, your story, and what were maybe the key moments in your life that defined you as the communicator you are. You truly do stand out the way you communicate. It's so refreshing, so direct. I absolutely was captivated by you the first time I met you. So yeah, how do you create that captivating image, that impactful voice? What has shaped it? Get us started.
So it's such an interesting question, and I had to think about it because it's one of those things that I never really considered myself even to be someone who was assertive. I am naturally quite a people pleaser. I always used to blame the directness on just being South African. I'd just be like, no, it's just the South African accent. I sound direct. But actually, it is something that I have developed over the years. And I have actually found my voice and found my confidence in saying what I really think and speaking my truth. And there's one moment that actually, if I really think, like, where did this all come from? Like, when did I really start to find my voice in that way? There was a specific moment, actually, I'm sitting at the table. It's a Friday night family dinner, and I'm 14 years old. And I have a very loud, dominating brother. There's all these people sitting at the table who are guests of my grandparents. We're at my grandparents' house. And these are people who are really interesting people from politics and artists and all kinds of people. And I'm 14, so you know that awkward age. And I'm the kind of person who, at that point, was very comfortable with my friends, and I had something in me that wanted to shine. And with my friends, I could be really chatty, and I was quite flirty, and I would love it, you know, when I would be telling a story and I'd have eyes on me. But like a lot of women, particularly at that age, but the legacy lives on. I had like a love-hate relationship with that visibility. And so I would kind of like love it in certain situations, and then I would be really shy away from it in other situations. And this was one of those situations where I sat at that table, a 14-year-old girl, surrounded by all these people, a very dominating brother who has so much who was talking about all kinds of things that I thought all these people were interested in. And I remember sitting there just thinking, I've like nothing to say, and I'm not as interesting, and I'm not as, you know, like I've got like nothing to say. And at some point, my grandpa, who came from Czechoslovakia to South Africa, sat there and he banged his hands on the table and he went, "Enough," to my brother. And he said, "Enough. I want to hear from my granddaughter." And he like looked at me, and then all these eyes were on me. And I just felt myself like shrink, not expand, as I thought, oh my God. But two things happened in that moment, I think. One was I realized that, wait, actually, maybe, you know, you have these loud, dominating people sitting at a table, or all these people who seem to be so confident and talking about all these things. And my assumption was that everyone was really interested, and actually maybe they aren't. And maybe I do actually have something to say. And maybe my voice is just as valid or just as necessary in this conversation. And, you know, it's up to me to actually speak up and use my voice. And at the same time, I also realized that there's not always going to be my grandpa sitting in every room telling everyone to shut up and giving me an opportunity to speak. And actually, a lot of people never have that, have someone who says, "No, we want to hear from you." In fact, most of us, particularly women, but a lot of us grow up being told to be quiet, or not now, or, you know, like, you know, whatever it might be, don't boast, you know, calm down, or whatever it might be. And I had someone who just turned around and said, "Stop, I want to hear from you." Didn't have anything interesting to say, but it really started me realizing I actually have a right to be at this table. My voice matters. And I, in the future, am going to be the only person who is going to give myself that opportunity to say, wait, I have something to say too. And I have to learn how to do that for myself, because my grandpa's not going to come with me everywhere. And so really that probably is the most pivotal moment I had, when I realized that maybe my voice actually mattered and I needed to start actually speaking up.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing this, and how many women, and especially at a teenage time, can relate to this. I want to see some yeses or some, you know, thumbs up in the comments if you can resonate with, I'm sitting here, eyes are on me, and I have nothing to say, or I don't know how to make an impact, even if I said it.
Yeah. I think it's
Wow.
kind of like that idea where you wanting to say things and you don't know how to get in, or you keep overthinking, like, but what do I have to offer? What, you know, what, or is that correct? Is that right? Like, you know, overthinking like everything before, and then before you know it, the opportunity goes by and you miss out on being able to say it. And so I think a
Wow.
lot of people resonate with that.
And I think not only the voice and what it is that needs to be said, but also you did match as well the image that goes with it, and you help women do
Yeah.
a lot of that in their personal branding. But we can come back to that for whoever is interested in this. So I was thinking, of course, the New Year kind of resolution type of period is gone. Most of us have fallen flat on our New Year resolutions. You know, the dust is settling in terms of, okay, it's me and me again. You know, I was looking up in the mirror this morning. It's like, yeah, I was hoping I'm going to change certain things, for example, here and there and so on, but it hasn't really. And it's almost March. And I really, really thought one of the topics that keeps always coming back to me is, from my clients, but also when I speak with my friends and business partners as well, is the confidence to do new things, or the confidence
Mhm.
to do things that we know we can do, but we couldn't fathom the failure, perhaps. And these are my inner chatters, right? But
Mhm.
I know that confidence is crucial in every aspect of our lives, in many aspects of our lives, actually. The how we come across is half of the game.
Mm.
And I'm sure you have noticed in your career as a coach, as a personal impact coach, prevalent patterns that block leaders as well as, wider work professionals when it comes to confidence, to visibility, to presence. And I've been there myself, and I call myself a coach too, right? So, how do you, as a coach, empower them to become magnetic, to become assertive, to claim that space in the spotlight? And I know your experience now of what puts you in that game, in that lane, to be able to empower people. But how do you actually today, a few years on, are you doing that for your clients? What do you kind of start helping them with when they come to you?
So that's a big question.
Just give us
um,
some starters, yes.
yeah. And there's a few things that come up for me. So when it comes to my approach to confidence, and obviously that's the heart of it. So as you mentioned, there's the inner confidence, and then there's the impact that we make, and those are the two sides of the coin that I help people with, really. So it's the confidence around knowing that you have a right to be there, the confidence to push the edges. I actually don't ever talk about getting out of your comfort zone. I talk about pushing the edges of the comfort zone. Just like, if it feels a little bit scary but a little bit exciting, we're on the right track. The problem is, for a lot of people, and what I help my clients to understand through different modalities, I use a lot of different ways of doing this, is that what stops us from pushing the edge of our comfort zone, it's not like we talk about the fear of failure, the fear of this, the fear of that, but actually what we really don't want is to feel discomfort, and we don't want to feel the feeling in our body of shame, embarrassment, disappointment, rejection, and we don't want to feel those things. And so we keep ourselves safe to avoid feelings that potentially could be uncomfortable. And actually, when we realize that you're not going to die if you get rejected, you're not going to die if you feel embarrassed, you're not going to die if you say no. And it sounds very dramatic, but that's actually what's kind of going on. Like, for a lot of us, is we're fighting with really old programming that is seeing this as so life and death, and it's really not. And so I do a lot of work helping my clients to understand that, getting your body kind of feeling comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. So that's part of it. And then it's like understanding the visibility piece, and, how you want to be seen, using all the things that you have to your disposal to actually make the impact you want to make. Like, these things are tools. Body language is a tool. Your image and the way you dress is a tool. The way you use your words is a tool. The way you manage your own emotional state becomes a tool to help you to be able to step up, stand out, and shine within your life and within your relationships. These are all tools. And when we talk about empowerment, which ultimately is what I do, what does it actually mean to be empowered? It means to have the skills, knowledge, and confidence to make choices. And that is what it is all about. Is like, everything is either a skill, wherever there's a gap, when we're not doing something or being something or feeling something, there's clearly just a gap between either something that we need to learn, knowledge, skill, learn how to do, or confidence, like rewire the way we're thinking about something. It's really that simple. The minute we've got the skills, the knowledge, and the confidence, we're now empowered, and we can actually choose how we want to respond, how we want to show up, what we want to put ourselves forward for. So those are the different ways that I help people to do that.
And it makes me think, I loved what you said. It's not just the skills, the knowledge, and the tools. You absolutely bring all of that. But what you actually give them in order to empower them is the choice.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that, and how you landed it as well.
Yeah.
And thinking back, it's not that people don't know these things. It's probably they need your presence as a witnessing partner to be able
Mm-hmm.
to explore and practice, especially the body aspects, the visibility aspects, and so on, isn't it? We need to ask for help, and it's an irony as well, because as we're talking about confidence, we need to talk about imposter syndrome. And the irony of the imposter syndrome is that one of the outcomes, anyway, the symptoms, is people don't end up asking for help. And the more they don't ask for help, the more they get wound up and stuck in that feeling like a fraud situation that they're feeling, and the emotional state that comes with it, and the body language and so on, right? So let's the next, I think, stage would be to kind of give a little bit of a statistic. I was doing a little bit of research this morning, and I tried to pull it all together because there were so many articles, but safely I can say about 70% of people in general experience imposter syndrome at some point in their lives, irrespective of their age, of their gender, of their ethnicity, or circumstances. Of course, it's related to stress and so on, but in general, it happens to all of us, and it can be at any point in our life, whether we are in a job that we know well, or whether we're transitioning. I'm just using some examples here. And it can lead to perfectionism as a symptom, procrastination. These are the main themes, of course. People pleasing, which you already mentioned, and burnout, because we overthink, we get stuck into those loops, and we spend so much energy and we start leaking that energy. And I know that you're helping your clients with imposter syndrome. So I'm going to make a statement. Jodi does have the antidote to imposter syndrome. So I would like her to give us a flavor and tell us about how you help your clients to navigate through this confidence tyranny. It's almost like, if we are professional, if we're out there doing anything, we must be confident. And this is a tyranny we have to navigate. And I think it's too much weight on our shoulders at times. But how do you end up in the end making your people feel comfortable and end up helping them take space? That's something you really
again, a few things there. Like so first of all, with the imposter syndrome, I've now worked with thousands of people and presented in front of thousands of people. And I often will start my talk asking the audience, as you said, all levels, all genders, all industries, all over the world, like whatever. And I'll say, put your hand up if you've ever been in a room, in a meeting, in a conversation, and you thought to yourself, like, I don't actually know what's going on. And at some point, someone's going to figure that out. And every hand goes up every single time. And so I always, I think, so there's a few things here. One is, so who does know what's going on? Clearly no one. And I think we often are comparing ourselves to something that doesn't exist. So we just see like the outside of the people around us, and we assume they have all their shit together. We assume that they know exactly what is going on. We assume that they just like, are walking around life, like just being like, I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. I am enough. I am everything. And they just like, but actually that's not the truth. Like behind that, for everyone is something that they are worried about, concerned about, like comparing themselves to other people with. And so when we're comparing our internal state to somebody's external state, of course we're going to feel like an imposter, because we're like, oh my gosh, I'm here with all of this internal stuff happening. I don't feel massively comfortable. I have moments of fear. I have moments of doubt. I have moments of this, and they all look like everything is together. So it's not a fair comparison. And also in my experience, because when I'm in those rooms saying to people, have you ever felt like, oh, I don't actually know what's going on, someone's going to figure it out, and everybody says yes, these are rooms of people who have chosen to be in those rooms, right? Like these are, when I'm talking at a conference or at an event or at a personal development opportunity or whatever. So the majority of people aren't in those rooms in the first place. I want to just say, like, if you're watching this, you're not the majority of people. If you take time to think about your own development, or you take time to watch something that could potentially help you in some way, if you're already thinking, oh, I could learn from this, I could grow from this might help me. Oh, I actually want to take ownership and take responsibility for my own happiness, my own success, my own career. You already are not the majority of people. You are special, because the majority of people are going through their lives on autopilot, like just going through the motions. And that also includes their emotional state of anxiety, comparison, self-doubt. So the minute you take a moment to go, actually, I don't think like, I need to think about this and find a way to be able to still put myself forward, even if I have these feelings inside of my body, because you're comparing it to something that doesn't exist. If you don't have any kind of discomfort, like if you're not feeling a little bit of imposter syndrome occasionally, you aren't growing. You literally are not growing. You aren't pushing the edge of your comfort zone. You aren't developing in any way, shape, or form. You aren't doing anything towards having more of whatever it is you want to have. We have to have that discomfort if we want more of anything. More happiness, a better relationship, better communication skills, more money, a better job. Like, we have to have moments of discomfort. So a lot of people are thinking, if I'm feeling discomfort, I'm obviously not good enough. Not at all. That's good. In fact, there's a thing, I'm sure you saw when you did your research, called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And the only people who don't have imposter syndrome are people who, I'm just going to be blunt because you said it yourself, direct, who kind of are too dumb to know that they don't know everything. Right? Like, people who do not ever have moments of discomfort and that feeling of imposter, like, oh my God, can I really do this? Am I really good enough? Am I really going to like do this thing where even though my body is feeling uncomfortable, am I actually going to do this? Wow, you are smart. You are capable. You are like pushing yourself. You are special. But if you're sitting there like, I know everything and I know everything about everything, like, that's the Dunning-Kruger effect, and it means that you actually are not smart. So if you're feeling imposter syndrome, the antidote is, well done. You're growing. You're putting yourself, you're pushing your edges, you're developing, and you are wise enough to know that there is always more to learn.
Absolutely. And we got a lovely comment here from Joe Harley. If you don't feel discomfort, you won't grow. Love this. What a reframe.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That's the distillation, I think, at this point, very beautifully presented. And I also loved what you said about how unfair that comparison is that we put ourselves through with the internal world of how we feel on the inside, our discomfort, with how people are presenting themselves as if it's all kept together. We know what's going on, but actually this is our own comparison and it doesn't exist. That perfection we are putting onto others doesn't exist, and therefore we are doing ourselves a disservice. And yeah, the reframe, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And as we're coming closer to the International Women's Day, and I know you've got a lot of bookings for public speaking, and what a pep talk did we just have. Wouldn't you like, Jodi, to be saying this to you before you step on stage, or before you start a new job, or before you say yes to something that you don't quite have figured out how to do yet, to listen to this before you go into it? Who would say yes? I'd say yes. I definitely need to call you before I do anything difficult. So with International Women's Day coming, in the next few days, I'm sure these topics will be, recycled again in different ways. But I want to hear from you, and I'm curious about what influenced your personal commitment to helping women in your field and expertise, in terms of, I know you do tend to take a lot of care about how women, present themselves and how they deserve to have a say in a room, especially in board tables and leadership, technology, and also you help a lot of entrepreneurs that need to make an impact out there. So what really fueled your personal commitment to support women in this field, apart from being a woman, of course?
So my mother she is still around, but she was, when she used to work, she doesn't work anymore. So she was a like the right hand person to very successful CEO, business owners, people who'd buy and sell businesses, and she always would be the person who would land up and come in and end up running her businesses. And so I grew up with a working mom, like in the 80s with her shoulder pads, and in the early 90s, and like the big hair and amazing legs and her little suits. And first of all, I thought she was so badass, and I was like, I loved seeing her work, and I loved seeing her, just pull everything together and just be so efficient and so in control and make stuff happen. But she also was always like the second, and behind the scenes didn't ever actually think she was anything special, kind of thing. She was like, oh no, I'm not, I'm just, I just do what so-and-so tells me to do, or I just make this happen. It's like, there was a lot of that imposter syndrome. There was a lot of that self-doubt. There was a lot of her not really seeing just how freaking awesome she was. And I could see it. And so I think that had a massive effect on me in many ways. And then throughout the years, like just us, I worked as a makeup artist at one point. I thought that's something that I would want to do. So I studied makeup artistry like in my very early 20s. And in that situation, I was doing makeup lessons and bridal makeup or makeovers or whatever it was. And I would just be sitting with these women who I could always see this like, I could just see them without their comparison, without their fears, without their insecurities. Like I could just see them as the best version of them. And I would do their makeup and then they would look in the mirror and they'd be like, often cry and just go, oh my gosh, like I never, like I look so, I look really pretty. I look really beautiful. I never saw myself this way. And without fail, every time they would sit down, they'd be complaining about something on their face. And so, I'm sorry about this, or just, I've got a thing here, or, and I'll just be like, stop. Like, I don't even stop. So that really affected me too. Like, I didn't want women to have that experience of life. Mm-hmm. And I think all these little things came together. And then when I started doing leadership training and leadership development, and then I had an opportunity to work with a group of only women around leadership, and I had done mixed leadership sessions, and I really saw the difference when women are given a space that they can come and share. And the transformation that takes place was so epic. And also what I saw was the transformation that they were then able to create in terms of culture was like next level. Like if I always say, like, if you want your culture to change, the women in your business have to step up because we're the ones who are going to change the culture. But we won't do it if we're still thinking that we have to succeed by being just like the way the men have done it before us, which is exactly what has happened, and it's no one's fault. I love men, by the way. I'm not an anti-man woman. It's like I just feel like we haven't allowed ourselves to appreciate like equal, not the same. And the more women are like, wait a minute, this is how I'm different, and this is how I'm gonna start to lead, and this is how I'm gonna show up. That's when magic happens, and the world freaking needs a bit of that magic right now.
Absolutely. I love what you said. Equal doesn't mean the same.
Mm-hmm.
And for how long, I mean, ladies in the room, in our streams, how many of you felt before that, before you heard just this, that our differences were something to hide, something to equalize perhaps, or kind of blend and dilute so that we fit in. And we have to challenge those thoughts. We have to challenge those beliefs. And I think Jodi comes in to just spit it out like it should be said. And that brings me beautifully to the topic that we talked when we first met, and it casually came up in our conversation, the tall poppy syndrome. And I wanted to find out a little bit more about what this is and how at least you have seen it happen in the workplace from the women that you have trained and you coached as an executive coach. What has been happening for them, and how that syndrome, I guess, which is not really talked about. I mean, I recently found out about it. It just happened to be a few months before you mentioned it to me. And how do you help them find the balance, especially in the diversity agenda, right? Because we've got that, and some of that is getting threatened in many, many ways in different parts of the world.
Yeah, so the tall poppy syndrome, so in case anyone is not familiar with the term, I believe it comes from it might come from Australia, but I'm not sure. Essentially, tall poppy syndrome is, if you imagine like a field full of poppies, like the beautiful little flowers, they all grow roughly the same height. And then every now and again, one will like pop up above the rest and will be cut down to make the field look really beautiful. And the idea with the way that tall poppy syndrome affects people, women particularly, is again twofold. So one is there is something that happens when people stand up above others and put themselves out there to be cut down and to be judged. And so we see it happen all the time. Like we see on social media trolls, or if you just have to look at the comment section on people's posts, and particularly when you look at a lot of women showing up online, and there's just like really, horrible I was just looking at something the other day, and it's like, cringe, like, like just, and so there's something that we obviously don't want that to happen to us. And we see it happening all the time. So it's kind of like this, like, and if we're honest, we do it to other people too. So there's an idea, like, we all can be a little judgy. So it's a little bit like, who do they think they are? I would do it better than them. And because we're being a little bit like that, we're only doing it because of our own insecurity. We just assume everyone's thinking that too. And then at the same time, we don't want to be too visible because we don't want to be the poppy that gets cut down.
Yeah.
So, and the reason this happens is so biological again, because our primary, the primary function of our brain is to keep us safe. And I believe it's one of those things, like equal, not the same, where because of our both conditioning and biology, we actually are more sensitive to being visible. And this is not something that is spoken about very often.
I think so.
When you grow up with testosterone in your body and your muscles are stronger, your bones are stronger, unconsciously, you don't fear for your safety physically quite as much as we do completely unconsciously. That's what like, ask any woman, have you ever, walked with the keys between your fingers at night? And you'll ask, the majority of guys in normal situations would never have even thought about it. And there isn't a woman alive who hasn't thought about it. So it's an innate, like, knowing that you physically are a bit more vulnerable in many ways. And that like unconscious knowing of the fact you're actually quite physically vulnerable means that when you're sitting in a boardroom table and you're thinking about speaking up, the idea of being cut down to size can feel like really dangerous to our system.
Yeah. And it's interesting because we talk about it, about standing up, stepping up and shining. And maybe I didn't say that in the correct order, so please forgive me if I didn't. But actually, we all are also doing it to ourselves and to others. And most of the times we do it to protect them as well, not in a bad meaning way. And especially because I am also a coach and I post quite a lot. I have been approached by family members, also friends in the background, to say, hey, some people are joking with me, and some people genuinely come from a place of care to say, hey, why did you post that? Or why did you say that? And they don't mean bad, but obviously we get affected, right? And the moment we try to stand out and make a change or talk about something that's important for us, we run the risk automatically of having to be cut down because we was poppy, in the hood. And that's definitely an experience of mine coming from a Japanese culture.
Yeah.
It's really about cutting the tallest poppy.
Yeah. And there'll be, like you said, I love that. It's like, it's coming from a place of love where it's like, don't do that because something bad, unconsciously, it's like something bad might happen to you. You don't want to be too visible. You don't want to stand out too tall. But it doesn't always sound like that. It sounds a little bit like, I can't believe you put that on, maybe not your family, but I've heard, I can't
it comes in different ways, but it does happen in the background. And you're absolutely right. I think it comes from a natural place to protect. We're automatically wired, but also as women, we didn't know there was a name about this, but apparently in the recent years, it has been called the tall poppy syndrome, trademarked, because we fear as women to stand out too much, just in case we, were shamed. Well, the cutting doesn't physically always happen, but it could be there, but it could be cutting in terms of as words. So thank you for explaining that to us. And, I know we have talked about the confidence piece, the imposter syndrome and how we experience it and how you help your clients to overcome that. And of course, we navigated towards the more, women-related issues around the confidence piece. But finally, I would like to know, because you have dedicated yourself in supporting amazing women in leadership, technology, and entrepreneurship as well, how do you help them speak and get heard. And this comes from our conversation, and it really goes back to what you shared on the table when you were 14. Now that I know the story, it has been so important for you to really amplify the voice of women in particular. And now I know why. But how do you help them be heard, especially as a communication expert, which I know you are? From that perspective, with that lens, how have you been supporting that mission?
So I have a inside out, outside in approach to communication and speaking up. So it's all the same part of the same thing, right? It's like having the skills, knowledge, and the confidence to do it. And so
Mhm.
some of it comes down to skill, which is learning literal techniques to stop yourself from being interrupted, whether it is just using the subtle hand, whether it's using someone's name, whether it's just continuing to speak, whether it is like just using the minute, like 1 minute, like unconscious, it'll get into their unconscious mind, like I'm still talking. There's a lot of like actual techniques, whether there's specific techniques around influencing and having assertive conversations and being heard. And that's something that we're not often, most people in life actually are not taught, is how to communicate assertively. It's the greatest skill that you can ever learn and can set you apart and make you stand out. But it's not something that we're ever taught at school in terms of what does it actually look like to have an honest, assertive, adult conversation. I didn't know it. My default was always like, child parent, like you will listen to me, or like, that was so unfair, like kind of like fluctuating between those two states, and actually learning how to communicate like an adult and be very honest and open and clear about what it is that you actually want and need. And I teach frameworks. So I actually give like specific frameworks around how to have that conversation. It's like a structure. It's literally like EROS, like just do that and it will be no problem. And so there's a lot of the skill that comes into doing it, as well as the energy of communicating and being heard, which I also have an acronym like CEO. I teach people to talk like a CEO, to communicate like a CEO. That stands for calm, empowered, and open. And so calming your system down before you speak, being empowered in terms of what are you going to choose right now? You're going to choose to say it or not say it. You're going to choose to agree or not agree. You're going to choose to say no or not to say no. That's your choice. And now here are some tools that you can implement your whatever it is you've decided, right? And then I teach things around your image and how that can help you to be heard. So, what you look like does affect whether people pay attention or not. It does affect the impressions that people make about us and the assumptions that they make about us. So why not, instead of fighting it, use it as a tool, use it to your advantage, so that when you do speak, you already are seen as the version of you that you want to be seen as. And all of those things also can make you feel more confident on the inside. It's like the more you do it, the more confident you feel. The more I put on the sparkles, because it's going to make me feel a certain way, as well as whatever it is it's going to make me look like on the outside. It's like a 2-for-1. So those are the ways that I help people to actually speak up. So it's like specific, tangible techniques and tools, plus developing the mindset of CEO, of like how to approach it from that calm, empowered place, and then using tools like, teaching specific body language, things that make our message land better, or whatever it might be.
Wow. I think this deserves a massive, huge round of applause. I loved it. I want to stand and give you a standing ovation.
Oh.
So this is how powerful communicating is, and you have absolutely embodied that. And I loved how you described some of the acronyms you help and equip people with to be able to use on the spot, so that they don't have to think about it there and then. They have practiced it and they can actually pull it out when they need it according to the situation. And I also loved what you said about the internal and outside. You described it in a better way, but I keep the fact that how they feel on the inside and how they want to show up on the outside needs to be aligned, is my interpretation of it. And how you help them be intentional about this and match the image that they want to create, as well as what they need to say. All of that really holistically coming together is what you are able to do for not just females, but leaders in any situation, circumstance, as well as ethnicity or background as well. I absolutely love this, and I would love to encourage the people who are with us online to post some questions if you do have them, or make some comments that you would like Jodi to respond. While I'm here to say that I really, really loved how you walked us through your personal experience, but also how you opened people up and how you reframed some of the typical, feelings that we have about discomfort. Actually, this is the only way we know that we are growing. Also about, how the voice and, using some of the frameworks, you can really empower yourself by how you feel on the inside and how you express it on the outside. Do we have any questions for Jodi in the meanwhile, while you're typing? I will just say, if you did have any message for, the audience in terms of, the programs I know you're running in the next few weeks, because if you did love what Jodi shared with us and how she shared it, most importantly, I know she will be, running a couple of programs in the next few weeks that will be very much up your street. One of them is Get Your Ass Out There, which I mentioned already. Face Forward is your coaching program. Is that correct? And she also has a very curious animal instinct quiz, which I would like to find out a little bit more about for people who are listening to us.
So yeah, the Animal Instinct quiz is a free quiz that you can take, and it helps you to see exactly how you might be holding yourself back, where you can be adapting your communication style to be even more effective based on many different psychometric profiling tools that are out there. There's really nothing new under the sun. Most of the big name psychometric profiling tools all come from the same school of psychology. But I did it in my way. And I did it in a way where it tends to just be easier to actually understand and remember and implement, so that it's not like, it's not one of these quizzes and it's like, oh, okay, that's great. Now what? It's like, wow, okay, I can actually see how I am motivated, how other people are motivated, but how I can identify it and what I can actually do about it so that I can be much more effective. So that's that. So yeah, so I've got the Animal Instinct quiz at the moment. Get your ass out there. The next round is just starting, so you may have missed the deadline unless you get in there by the end of tomorrow.
There by the end of tomorrow, guys, Friday.
Yeah. And that's all about visibility on LinkedIn and showing up and finding your voice and your clarity and your confidence on LinkedIn specifically. And then Face Forward is my female empowerment and leadership program.
Beautiful, beautiful. So if you've got any questions around those, please do contact Jodi. I will put in the comments her LinkedIn profile contact link, as well as a little bit of information on those programs, so that you can follow up, have a little look, and ask her any questions you want. But as we don't seem to have a specific question, of course, if you think of a question, you can always come back and comment on the stream, and we will be able to answer it for you. I would love to help you, Jodi, for joining us and me specifically today, sharing your energy, first of all, the way you shared it, the stories that you brought, and how you really helped me reframe some of, perhaps conditioning related, thinking that I've picked up from the corporate world, from the professional world. Equal is not the same. I loved how we unfolded some of the, syndromes, imposter, tall poppy syndrome, but also, talking about confidence and voice and branding as well. How they all have to come together intentionally to be able to make the impact that we want. I really am, finishing my day rich. And I wanted to invite any of you who, want to work with Jodi to drop her a line. She's truly remarkable. This is pretty much the impact she had on me the first time we met. And I was like, I definitely have to share her with my audience and the world. So here we are. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank
And
you.
good luck with the beautiful programs that you are running. I know you've got a few speaking engagements lined up in the next few weeks as well. Watch out for this lady. She will change your life. And she
Thank
has
you so much,
definitely.
Christina. Thanks for having me. It was lovely chatting with you.
Thank you, and have a beautiful rest of the day. And get your ass out there by tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you.